Hampton Town Board. We are live recording and being streamed.
Great, thank you. Welcome everyone to the Town Board meeting of January 4th, 2024, our first night meeting in I think 3.5 years. Carol, if you please read the roll.
Councilmember Flight.
Present.
Councilmember Lees.
Present.
Councilmember Rogers.
Present.
Supervisor Burt Gonzalez.
Present. Everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So tonight we had 5 public hearings noticed. One is for the Monroe analysis of the East Hampton Senior Center. Another is to amend Chapter 240, Section 240-58, Schedule 8 for stop intersections. The third notice is to amend Chapter 240, Section 240-60, Schedule 10. Public hearing number 4 is to consider amending East Hampton Town Code, Chapter 95. And lastly, it was to amend Chapter 240, Section 240-80, Schedule 30, traffic regulation, certain entities. It appears that the public hearing, the 5th public hearing, there was an error in the notice, so we will not be holding that hearing tonight. So with us, we have the esteemed Hugh King. Welcome, Hugh.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if you've read in the paper, but the great Helen Harrison is leaving the Pollock Krasner Center. The Pollock Krasner Center, as you know, is an historic landmark, a national historic landmark. History was made on that property by Jackson Pollock and Lee Krasner. Whether you are interested or like Jackson Pollock's work, that work and the other abstract expressionist works changed the course of art history in our country. It actually got the focus at time away from Europe in here into America. Everyone remembers about Jackson Pollock and his work, but Lee Krasner was also an abstract artist of some note, and unfortunately, at times, she had to put her career aside because she had to manage his. And Helen Harrison, besides being the director of the Pollock Krasner Center, also leads a wonderful walking tour of the Green River Cemetery. And there's no other person. I go along and talk about the locals, but Helen talks about all the artists, and many of them she knew. And then I'm leaving on one more. There's a woman named Ruth Appelhoff. Mm-hmm. Ruth Appelhoff used to be the director of Guildhall, but she wrote a book about Lee Krasner, and it's called Lee and Me. And that's a book. It's a wonderful window into what Lee Krasner had to do, even before and after Jackson Pollock's death. So I'm going to leave now. I'll be back in January, and I'm going to begin talking in a 3-part story of a very historic event that took place in February of 1657. So I'll be back, and thanks for inviting all these people to hear me speak.
Our pleasure, Hugh. Thank you. All right, Carol, if you could read the first notice, please.
The public hearings will be held live and in person by the town board and will be available electronically by video and teleconferencing and will be televised on Channel 22 and available for live stream on the LTV website. Any person or party wishing to be heard on this matter may address the board in person at the hearing or by calling into the hearing by dialing 351-888-6331 or by written comment addressed to the East Hampton Town Clerk, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton. Written comments may also be submitted to the town clerk by email at cbrennan@ehamptonny.gov. Please be advised that all written comments must be submitted to the town clerk on or before the date and time of the public hearing. Please check the meeting agenda posted on the town's website for any changes and for updated information. Notice is hereby given that the Town Board of the Town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing at Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, on Thursday, January 4th at 6 p.m. to consider whether the town of East Hampton's plan to construct a new 22,000 square foot senior center with parking, walking trails, and related site improvements on vacant town-owned land located at 403 Abraham's Path in Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300, 166, 3, 10.2, shall be exempt from the Town of East Hampton zoning standards and process.
Thank you, Carol. Today, we have Jeremy Samuelson, our Director of Planning, just to introduce the public hearing. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you, Supervisor, and thank you for welcoming the public in at these evening sessions. The Planning Department previously submitted a memo intended to assist the town board in deciding whether the proposal to construct a new 22,000 square foot senior services center with on-site parking, walking trails, and other related site improvements on town-owned land located at 403 Abraham's Path in Amagansett should be exempt from the town zoning code and land use procedures pursuant to the Monroe Balancing of Public Interest tests. When a government agency undertakes a project within its own borders, it is presumed that the project is subject to local zoning. However, the government agency may overcome this presumption in appropriate cases and thereby exempt the project entirely or in part from its local zoning by applying Monroe's balancing test. Under the Monroe decision, the sponsoring government agency must consider each of 9 factors discussed below. However, no one factor is determinative. Although the Monroe decision arose from a dispute in which one government agency sought immunity from another government agency's zoning, the courts of New York State have since recognized that the Monroe balancing test also applies in situations where a government agency seeks exemption from its own zoning. In this instance, the question is whether the town board should exempt the new senior center from the town's own zoning standards and procedures. Tonight's hearing is intended to inform the town board in determining the path for ongoing review of the project proposal. So I will now, in very brief, outline the 9 criteria which will inform the process. Under the Monroe analysis, the first criteria is the nature and scope of the instrumentality seeking immunity. The town board, which plans to construct the new senior center on town-owned land located at 403 Abraham's Path, the town board is planning to construct a new town board, or is planning to construct, let me try that again, apologies. The town board, acting on behalf of the town of East Hampton, which plans to construct the new senior center on town-owned land located at 403 Abraham's Path in the hamlet of Amagansett. The town is acting in a governmental capacity in that it seeks to provide new and expanded community services to the town's senior citizens population. The second criteria, labeled as the encroaching government's legislative grant of authority. The senior center's project site is located entirely within the town of East Hampton and is not within any incorporated village. Therefore, there is no encroaching or conflicting government. Criteria 3, the kind of function or land use involved. The land use involved is the approval and construction of a new senior center that will provide new and expanded community services to the town's senior citizen population. The function or land use involved is a governmental or public purpose that will provide community services and programs to town residents. The fourth criteria, the effect local land use regulation would have upon the proposed project. The land use process ordinarily applied to development projects in the town is designed to determine whether and to what extent the proposal complies with the town's zoning and planning objectives and to provide opportunities for public input. In this case, the size, location, and public need for the new senior center has been amply documented and presented to the town and extensively studied over the past several years. The town board has the ability to receive additional input from both the public and from the town's land use boards and professional staff to ensure the greatest amount of participation in this process. Although the proposal requires some relief from the town zoning standards, the senior center's overall planning and design are consistent with community needs and with the town zoning and planning objectives. Item number 5. Alternative locations for the facility in less restrictive zoning areas. The existing center operates on that's the existing senior center. It operates on roughly 2 acres and consists of a main building and an office trailer. The current facility is far too small for adaptive reuse, and the property itself is also too small for adaptive reuse, even if the town were to raise the existing center and to completely redevelop the site. The site the town has selected provides the needed facilities and the open space that are lacking at the existing center. The proposed location is consistent with the immediately surrounding recreational uses on Abraham's Path, which include the Abraham's Path Recreation Park, known affectionately as Terry King Ballfield, the Lee Hayes Youth Park, and Sport Time. Although other alternative sites in the town may exist, the town does not own or control, nor does it have the present opportunity to buy or lease land having the same valuable qualities as the proposed project site. There is no suitable alternative for providing a location for the new senior center. Item 6, the impact upon legitimate local interests. The impact on local interests will be positive. The proposed senior center will meet those needs and will improve the quality of life for senior residents in the town. Item 7, alternative methods of providing the proposed improvement. As noted above, there is no readily available alternative method for providing the proposed improvements for the reasons, again, stated above. Item 8, the extent of the public interest to be served by the improvements. Over the past several years, the town has documented a significant public interest and a need for a new modern senior center in the town. The extent of the public interest to be served by the new senior center is substantial. The public interest to be served by the proposed senior center will fulfill an existing and increasing public need to provide services to the town's senior residents that are currently not being adequately addressed. Item number 9. Intergovernmental participation in the project development process and an opportunity to be heard. A finding by the town board that the senior center is exempt from local zoning under the Monroe balancing test will not affect the town's obligation to seek permits or approvals from non-town agencies such as Suffolk County Department of Health Services, Suffolk County Water Authority, or the Department of Environmental Conservation. Accordingly, the town will still have to go through those non-town agencies for necessary permits and approvals. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. I have a sign-up sheet here, but there's no one signed up, so if you want to have a show of hands of who would like to address the board? Don? You want to come up to the podium?
My name's Don Matheson, and I'm 75, so I thank you for planning a new place for me to hang out. I have not been involved in any of the design process, and from what I've read recently, either I've been remiss or I don't understand what's going on. I was a builder here for 26 years, and there were a few basic tenets of efficient building because I was into efficient building and running houses with solar panels, et cetera. And one, for example, is two of the most expensive parts of a building are the roof and the foundation. So if you cut those two in half by stacking a 2-story building, you save a lot of money. Number two is if you take, this apparently has a windmill style design, which would be very attractive from our wealthy neighbors flying over. But if you take a long, narrow oblong and another narrow oblong and build them separately, you're doubling the exterior walls that have to be insulated and protected from the weather. So however many of those things you have, if you just put them together in a rectangle, you've saved an enormous amount of money. As far as solar panels, which I would hope this town, part of its planning idea is to build efficiently, not just to try to overpower it with mechanical means to make it green. And everybody I know who's ever put up solar panels puts them on the roof. Why we need a bunch of things out in the parking lot with solar panels on it seems to me a nice idea where it's the only way to go, but an extravagance with town money when there are other options. I appreciate your giving me a chance to quote. Oh, one other thing, because I know that we old people don't like to climb stairs, but I'll bet you the savings from even one of those changes would make it, would pay 4 or 5 times for an elevator. And one I forgot, stainless steel. I put cedar shingles on my first house that I built for myself here 35 years ago. I just stained them for the second time. They still look great. It's not a maintenance problem if you take care of it. So I don't know why we need to go to stainless steel, which is, I don't know, sounds extravagant to me. I appreciate you letting me speak.
Thanks, Don. Would anyone else like to address the board? Rona?
Excuse me. Good evening, Town Board. My name is Rona Klopman, and I'm speaking tonight both from a personal point of view and I'm making a comment as the chair of the Amagansett Citizens Advisory Committee. This senior center plan was never presented to the Amagansett Citizens Advisory Committee in any form with any information regarding the design, and none of our committee members had an opportunity to really speak on the issue. I think there should be more public comment from all of the Hamlet CACs. I don't believe any of them have seen the design, the proposal. So, and I'm looking at Kathy's message Tuesday when she became supervisor, that you need to improve communication, and I'm reading from her speech, and the flow of information between town hall, the public, and local business community. That's directly from your speech. So I think that this is the biggest project this has ever been done in the community, and I'm requesting that you keep the project open and that you bring it to each of the CACs to comment and really postpone this public hearing for at least further input of the community. I have this picture, which it's a small one, which came from 27 East of the current center. This was taken in August of 2023 of a lunch where everybody is seated around the tables, and I counted 30 people in the picture. I'll give it that maybe 40 at the most was present, since I can't see if anybody was disconnected from the photograph. But the size of this project and a 22,000 square foot building, the cost to taxpayers for over $32 million, where is the actual data and the evidence of attendance, especially the daily data? We have none of that. I looked on your site. I went into each thing that was posted on your website. Vague comments such as, and I quote, The town's Human Services Department serves the vast and varied needs of 3 generations of seniors, and some are probably dead by now after 8 years of this project hanging around. The seniors from 60 to 100 years of age encompass diverse interests, attitudes, lifestyles, physical abilities. It's so vague. Where's the data that calls for such a big 22,000 square foot building? I want the hard data, and I hope this town board will come up with it.
Okay, please wrap up. Rona, your 3 minutes are up.
You're going to chase most of the seniors out of this town with taxes if you continue. You're ginning up a need, and you're using a myth of what this town actually needs. I looked up at the town, on the town site, projects done by R2 architects. I Googled in each one of their projects, and to my dismay, each one was an urban setting and a community center. This is a senior center, and nothing as large as this project has ever been done by this group. So they had to partner with Ross Barney, a large firm from Chicago, and they had to bring in another architect from New York City and Bridgehampton, Ronette Riley, architect. I'll be closing it soon.
There's a lot of people here that want to speak tonight.
Lastly, I read the project overview on the town site. The committee was chaired by resident Jenny Mulligan and Diane Patrizio and several other town staff. One of the major commitments of the town was to provide a permanent home for the East Hampton Food Pantry. I read 2017, the town board agreed that the center would provide a permanent home for it. 2021, Chris Walsh wrote in the Star, a nice article, that this was a place for the food pantry. And yet I think the food pantry was used to sell the project, because now you're taking in a corporate company, a private corporate company like Meals on Wheels, and I think they do a good job, but they charge every senior for every meal. The food pantry is a place where they give food to people who need it. There's a complete difference in it, and I'm dismayed that you're taking that away. And I hope your new town administrator, Rebecca Hansen, will be the voice that says, not so fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Rona. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak? Jeff?
Good evening, board members. I'm Jeff Bragman, and I'm speaking tonight as a senior citizen, and I hope I get more than 3 minutes, since there don't appear to be more than 1 or 2 people here on this topic, which deals with the largest project the town's ever proposed, $32 million. The planning and zoning process runs by independent boards. It's designed that way to take politics out of planning. And for 40 years, the independent boards that supervise site plans, special permits, subdivision, variances, architectural review, for 40 years, they've been the guardrails that have protected the town of East Hampton and made it the beautiful place that it is. And when you consider the nature and scope of the people who are involved in the question of who should be reviewing this project, some people in the audience may think, well, the town owns the land, they have the most rights to do what they want to do. That's not true. Under the way our planning system operates, you've delegated your planning authority to zoning board, ZBA, and architectural review board. You don't have those powers anymore. They have the powers. And the reason that they're effective is because those boards have the power to say no. They don't just give advice that you can listen to and not take, which is what this board wants to do. That's the next step that you want to take. And your track record when you don't follow planning and zoning is pretty bad, frankly speaking. We had another senior center design in 2018. Kathy, you supervised that, and it cost $300,000 in grant money. That senior center design didn't fit on the site. and it was discovered a year and a half later. It didn't fit on the site because part of the site had been a park. Well, that's what you get when you don't do advanced planning. The Aquaculture Center, David, you remember that. We had a great fancy model, 7,500 square feet on Gann Road, didn't take into account sea level rise, looked beautiful. Neighbors didn't know anything about it. When they came out, it failed. Cell tower on the Crandall Norfolk Woodland, same thing. Kathy, you wrote up the comments, taking over the role of environmental review. An available alternative was ignored. The neighborhood came out and said, you're wrecking, a centerpiece of our neighborhood. It failed, and we got a better location. We would have known that 2 years earlier had we followed the rules. Hither Hills wastewater proposals, same result. Benson Preserve, which you're working on, and you're going to talk about, exempting yourself. Who knows what it's going to be? Your review hasn't even started in this case, and yet if you read the Star in October, November, December of 2023, you've already announced without any environmental review you're going to break ground this month on this project. And the state law prevents you from doing that. You can't start a project, in case anybody in the audience doesn't know this, you can't take a project in pieces. You have to complete the environmental review before you start. I also want to talk about the process you've followed to get us here tonight. We've had an unprecedented series of last-minute meetings scheduled on short notice that I think violate New York State town law. 7 days notice you've given us. December 7th, an appropriate date, was the only public hearing you've had on this project as a whole. December 7th, 2 people showed up after Thanksgiving and between Christmas. I don't think that date was unintentionally selected. It was designed to suppress public involvement. And at that hearing, the board actually didn't accurately tell the public what was going on, because you said this is going to be referred to the relevant agencies that have approval authority as we go forward. We are not holding a Monroe hearing that was referenced, and the person that referenced it, I confess, was myself. Also, the board was under a misimpression about what the status of this application was under New York State law. You thought it was in this category of uses that had less impacts, unlisted, it's called unlisted actions that don't require a coordinated review with your reviewing boards. That's what you thought you had on that night of the hearing. That was wrong. I corrected it in a letter that I wrote the same day. I was so disturbed to see that. And also, when I mentioned the fact that this project would ordinarily go to the planning board, the zoning board, and the ARB, Kathy interrupted me. I'm sorry, Kathy made a statement. You didn't interrupt me. And said, no, it doesn't have to go to the zoning board. There are no variances in this case. Well, there are a number of variances. There are at least probably 5 or 6 variances, which I'll get to if you give me maybe 5 more minutes. If it's $32 million, I think it's worth it. So the next meeting that you conduct, so people that watched that meeting were under the impression that the board was going to send this project to the relevant boards for review. That was what you said you were going to do. Then, curiously, you scheduled a work session on December 19th, getting closer to Christmas. At that time, you had your attorney, a fellow attorney whom I know and have worked with and respect, and he gave a little mini lecture on the hearing that we're having tonight. But he went out of his way, and I'm sure it was at the town board's insistence, to say, oh, this has nothing to do with any application that's pending. It's not related to the senior center. It's just a little explanation of what a Monroe hearing is. This is the hearing to exempt yourself from zoning. Well, then 2 days later, 2 days later, on December 21st, getting closer to Christmas, you had a resolution ready, another 7-day notice, to hold this Monroe hearing. So what a surprise. You start out on December 7th saying we're going to follow zoning and no problem. And then by, January 4th, 3 days after New Year's, here we are, and you've had 3 people commenting on a $32 million project. I wonder if that's a coincidence. And by the way, I understand, maybe this is just gossip, that you're selecting furniture for the place, and you've already announced you're going to clear the land in January. The cost cost is breathtaking. If anybody doesn't know what it's going to cost, it's giving you the best case scenario with no changes in the cost of the project. Already the budget's gone from $10 to $30 million in the 2 years you've looked at it without much public input. But the annual payment probably is going to come out to be about $1.82 million per year for the next 30 years if you do a straight line payment. That's assuming the price stays at $32 million, which is unlikely as the project goes on. So it'd be $54 million that you're dealing with at the end of the day. Not a small number. Pretty soon, a couple more million, that's serious money. Young families that are in the town of East Hampton will have the pleasure of paying for that until they're ready to use it as a senior center. They'll be paying off $2 million a year on it. And I wanted to say a couple of common sense thoughts because there's been a lot of talk about we have to do something because we're going to have a senior tsunami. We're really going to be overwhelmed with seniors. And I'm reluctantly confessing that I'm a senior. The town's population is 29,000 people. Our annual growth rate over 3 years from 2020 to 2023 was 1.94%. So we're not exactly, blowing the doors off on getting full-time residents into the town. And in fact, if you want a little analogy, a 22,000 square foot building is just a little bit under 1 square foot for every man, woman, and child who lives full-time in the town of East Hampton. It's a big building. And you know what? The graph for the senior population does not go like this in a steady upward climb. I wish it did, because I'm in that thing, and I know that the graph instead has a downward trend too, because it's self-limiting. Yes, we do die. We do die. And some move out, many people move out, some spend winters away, some age in place. Some seniors who move in fact, I would say most seniors who move to East Hampton to be full-time residents are likely affluent folks who know that they have to kind of take care of their health needs, and they're probably in decent shape, and that's why they're moving out here. They have fewer health needs. So the population graph is not steadily rising, and we're not going to have a tsunami of seniors, even though the percentage of our population is graying. And interestingly, your own survey that you conducted, it wasn't a paper survey, it was a remote survey. Your survey indicated that among the people that you targeted to use this building, 50% of them that answered said, we haven't gone to that building in 5 years. So there's that factor too. Not every senior in town is going to use it. And in addition, your own data showed that the seniors that did use the senior center went 1 to 3 times a week. So it's not like they're going every day of the week. So there's not going to be a tsunami of seniors. We don't have accurate information on your daily use of that building, but these rationales that there's an emergency and we need this large-scale building are not supported by facts. And in fact, your data on the population that you've included in your executive summary is, it really isn't even worth commenting on. But frankly, it's a cut and paste from the 2018 plan, Kathy, that you oversaw back in 2018. Literally, it's a cut and paste. And they recite some figures from 2000 to 2015, and they say that they contrast the percentage of population of 55 and over and compare it to the percentage 34 and under. And they go, oh, well, there's more people who are 55 and older than there are 34 and under. The difference is like less than 0.4. It's like 35% versus 34.7. What does that show? Nothing. Proves nothing. And what does the median age of East Hampton show? Nothing. Our median age back in 2010 was 43.8 years, 42. 42 is the median, as many people above it as below it. Suffolk County is 39.8. So what does that show? And likewise, it's continued the trend in 2020. And I've already told you that the questionnaire itself suggests that, you should rethink who's going to be using it. I want to talk to you, and I am going to wrap up. quickly. I have some issues with the plan itself. We're in a public hearing now where the town board's asking to exempt itself completely. It's going to go it alone, not going to use the planning board. And by the by, my understanding of Monroe is that you can't partially exempt yourself. If you exempt yourself, you're exempt. And if the town board, I want to make this clear, the town board, if you go to the planning board and you ask them to comment on something and you have the right to just ignore that comment, that's not engaging in a planning process. That's not how planning works. And this is the reason that we give planning to independent boards, not to the town board, because frankly, you don't have the time in your day-to-day work lives in these meetings to have people come present evidence to you, get consultants that challenge the evidence, question them, suggest conditions, get further explanations. A planning board review of a project of this size is going to take, for an ordinary applicant, would take easily over a year. It would probably involve an environmental impact statement. It belongs at the it belongs at the planning board, not here. You don't have the time. As a practical matter. And secondly, you don't have the authority, even though you own the land. So what don't you know right now? I'll tell you what I don't know from looking at the plans. You have parking there of 173 parking spaces. You've got no parking calculation. And when in June, when your planning director went and accompanied the architect to the planning board and gave really like a show and tell and instructed the planning board, you're not really you're not offering any opinions, just general impressions. The architect said, how does the parking feel? How do you feel about the parking? That's not how we do it in East Hampton, okay? We don't feel our way into adequate parking. There are rules in our code book about how you calculate it. There's no parking calculation. For example, where seating is not attached to the floor, there's a square footage that you have to divide into the area where you can seat people, and then you calculate a number of parking spaces and you add one per employee. It's never been done. And here you are asking to break ground this month, and you don't know what the parking is. By the way, there's no truck loading spaces there either. That's required. There's no dimensioned plan that shows the interior dimensions of the rooms where you're going to have seating, that you need that. There's no dimension plan on the parking that shows you the aisles, the angles, the width of the parking spaces. There's no queuing area for food, because I understand a lot of people drive in and want to get food. Also, the site metrics get done by your architect. They didn't double the setbacks. This is a special permit use in the town of East Hampton. Maybe they don't know that, okay? In a special permit use in a residential zone, you got to double the setbacks, and that affects the variances that they're seeking. And are they seeking variances? Yes, they are. And some of those variances, if I were an opponent, I would immediately say you shouldn't be giving building coverage variances or total coverage variances, because that makes the project a lot bigger than it should be on the lot. I am closing in on it. I am closing in on it. Also, ceiling height affects, thank you for your good humor, I appreciate that. Ceiling height affects also the calculation of gross floor area. If you're over 15 feet high in a ceiling, you double the gross floor area that's covered by that. So that would affect the calculation of how big the building is. And also, I would like to see, the building is so expensive that the town board has already been forced to look at pulling out some of the stuff you had planned. For example, instead of using concrete, you're going to asphalt. And there's even been talk about pulling out the solar panels. And the fact of the matter is, if the building, you're talking about the building being net zero, we need to see a calculation on this, not just okay, we're going to use geothermal and we got triple glazed windows. We need to see a calculation, a real calculation. And you have to put it in front of a board that can question it and get more answers and take some time to think about it. So the speed of your action. My motto in zoning and planning is fast decisions are bad decisions. To put this in a positive conclusion, getting public opinion getting the public into a board that can take its time, listen to what they have to say, absorb the comments, and take the time to look at a project of this size is essential. You have to trust the public. I know that you've worked hard on it. You think you've got the best design in the world, but you're a political body. And this is not a political decision. This is a planning decision. And the only thing that will protect East Hampton going forward is if you do not remove the guardrails that have protected us for 38 years. And I know it because I was there when it started in 1984 and 85. I hate to date myself, but I've been working with the town on all the boards since that date when there was a lot of pressure to develop. And you can't take the step the way you're doing it, and you can't break ground this month. You've got to take your time, trust your boards. You appointed them. They're independent for a reason. That's why they have long terms. You may not know this. Our planning board terms are 7 years. Our ZBA terms are 5 years, and our ARB terms are 5 years. Why do they do that? So that politicians have shorter terms. That creates stability in planning. That's what we need. Trust the people. Trust your boards. Do not take this step. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Jason, we have callers on the line, do we not?
Yes, we do. Unmuting the first caller.
Thank you.
Caller ending 4602. You're on the air, and please mute your TV in the background. Hello, caller 4602. You're on the air. Please mute your TV in the background. Moving on to next caller. Hello, caller ending 3763. You are on the air. Hello.
Hi, my name is Brad Brooks from Springs. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Can you hear me? Thank you. Oh, yeah, I'm calling. I have a handful of concerns. I think some of them have been addressed by some of the earlier callers, but I think I'll start again with the costs. I mean, going through some of the paperwork that's on the website, even according to the architect's own letter from 2 years ago, the budget for this project was supposed to be $10 million. And I realized that was probably too optimistic, and it looks like from what they put out then, they were thinking it might be 50 or 60 million. But I just still don't understand how that could jump in just 2 years to 32 million. I'd like to think there's some happy mid-ground there. I think one of the other problems, though, when you look at costs, at least from my experience, what I know about some of these things, the architects are grossly overcharging for some of these projects. The solar canopies are nowhere in the right ballpark. I've sent some of this information already to the board, but I'll point it out here again. The solar canopy should be about $1 million, not $3 million. In terms of the site prep, which they put at $9 million, I'm not sure, there should be more of a breakdown there, but I guess my big concern there is how much of this is really the fees up from the architects themselves. I'm looking at their letter from 2020 and December 21 again. They expect to get certain fees for certain work plus 6% of the total cost. So you've sort of set up a situation where it's in their best interest to increase the cost, which they've done. They've tripled the cost of this project in 2 years. One of the questions I hope can be answered today is if this project does cost $32 million, what will be the fees paid to the architects? They talked about $1.5 million if the project was $10 million. Will this balloon to $3-4 million? I hope someone can answer that, or somebody knows. I would like to think somebody knows that answer today. I think another issue with this is it's not a green building. I think if you look at the December 22 letter from the architect themselves, they have what's called their concept evaluation metrics. Even according to their own evaluation, the windmill project is not the best one. The linear project is. And even that's not a very good one. I mean, basically, this is not an efficient building. I'm not really quite sure, as somebody else brought up, just putting geothermal and solar doesn't make it green. This is not very efficient across the board, it seems to me. And I think the other design flaw, which I was sort of struck by when I looked at the plans, is there's not even a lounge. In the 22,000 square feet, which is 3 times larger than the current facility, there's not even a lounge. There's a 1,000 square foot glass lobby. But I'm kind of curious, since adult daycare is part of what the services of this place will be, where will these people be? Will they be in the game room? Will they be in the dining room that's 3,000 square feet? There's not even a lounge. So I think it's another reason to go back to the drawing board. Lastly, I think this is really the most important issue, and I've written to you about this directly, is a land issue. I don't think this property the project doesn't need 7 acres. Hopefully, to meet your own zoning codes, you could do this with, say, 4 acres. And those other 3 acres should then be taken and sold to the town's own community housing fund. Affordable housing is, obviously, as everyone aware, a very serious problem for the town. This is a great opportunity to take some land that you already own and put it to better use. So I hope 7 acres is not used just for this site. And the last thing I'll say is, my background is in finance. I think if this project really did cost over $30 million, the town should think hard that this will be at least $1 million in interest a year. And so I really hope the board reconsiders this. They don't rush this project through, which it does seem is happening right now, and that they actually get another design. I think there should be a more efficient design, a slightly smaller design, a more green design, which would actually be much cheaper. I think the target, hopefully, could be $22 million. I'd like to think for $20 to $22 million, the town of East Hampton could build a great senior center. So I guess I'll end it there. Hopefully that is what eventually happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Jason, we have another caller on the line.
Yes, we do. I'm muting next caller.
Oh, this gentleman raised his hand.
Hello, caller ending 0299. We are on the air. Hello?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Hello, can you? Oh, wonderful. Good evening, Town Board Supervisor Burke Gonzalez. Congratulations. And members of the Town Board. This is Carolyn Logan Gluck calling in. And thank you for taking my call. So I understand that the question at hand is whether the Town Board as a government agency meets the quote-unquote balancing of public interests test, which the head of our planning department very helpfully outlined. And I take that to mean whether or not, in terms of its goal of being immune from local zoning. And I understand that it seems to me, at least from my position as a layperson, I have to stop for a moment. I'm speaking just for myself, obviously, this evening, tonight, as an individual member of the community and not in my other capacities. So it seems to me as a layperson that, an argument can be made that the Town Board largely meets some of these tests, but I have to say, also, it seems to me not a slam dunk. But because I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a builder, rather than engage in debate about that, for which I'm not qualified, I'd just like to back up one step and ask, well, why is it that the Town Board seeks immunity from local zoning? And without knowing the answer from you, I'm guessing that the proposed senior center in normal circumstances would require variances from the ZBA and most likely review from the Planning Board and the ARB. The ZBA would have to rule on the proposal, which does not meet the code for rear and side setbacks for the accessory structures. The proposal does not adhere to the maximum building coverage, which should be at 7%, but instead will be at 9%. And according to my math, that adds up to 6,407.98 square feet. Nor does the proposal adhere to the maximum to the maximum lot coverage, which should be at 25%, and instead comes in at 34%, which is a sum of 27,655.14 square feet. So you would have to deal with that. And then the Planning Board. Now, I recall that a presentation was made to the Planning Board on June 14th of last year, and that the director of our planning department indicated that that would be a first of 3 presentations made to the Planning Board, and that they were just requested to sort of take a broad global view from 30,000 feet up, which they did, and you got a lot of positive feedback and also some constructive comments, I thought. So one question I have is, what happened to the other two, where are they coming in? If you did not exempt yourself, you presumably might come in front of the ARB, which might question what kind of shingle type is going to be on the building. And I'm still unclear in my own mind whether it's going to be steel or burnt shingles, and why there is so much glazing. I understand the need to bring the outdoors indoors, but these are two-story sets of windows from what I can understand from the pictures I've seen. So at the risk of repeating what people have said much more eloquently before these three boards were appointed by you so that we could have a better build out in East Hampton. And I ask you, why not get their eyes on this project? My guess is that, well, it would delay the start and potentially introduce some modifications to the design, although the argument has always been these would be for the better. I understand the urge to move forward with some speed, since this project has been going on since 2014. But this is a big project. It's big in terms of its physical size, and it's big in terms of its cost. Back in January 11th of 23, some of the members of the town board expressed their concern about the cost. And the response was, oh, the cost is just based on square footage. Well, the paperwork suggests to me that the original square footage was to be kept to 10 million. How does that go? 10, whatever, a third of what it is now. So I ask you, what happened when you signaled to the architect that you're concerned? So what is the downside of exempting yourself from the standards and procedures? From where I stand, it seems that the project may take longer to be completed. And yes, that's painful. The project may be modified, and that might be painful to some. But could it be for the better? As you know, I'm a founder of the Wainscott Tree Society. So at a minimum, I'm asking you, please don't cut down the trees until you've gotten the approval from, or at least the review of other boards and other involved agencies. Please don't go so fast. Please slow down. You've got some advice from, get the advice from your boards and respond to your constituents. And I apologize if these comments are inappropriate and should have been presented at the public hearing in early December. But I have to echo what some people have already said. I didn't see the cost presentation that was delivered to you on November 21st because I was on my way to California to celebrate Thanksgiving with my 90-plus parents. And I just couldn't turn around fast enough to get my thoughts together for the December 7th public hearing. So I appreciate your consideration this evening. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for going over my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Was there someone in the room that wanted to speak? Please.
Hi, my name is Louis Bradbury, and I'm 77, so I think I qualify as a senior citizen. However, my comments aren't about the center itself. It's about the process. And listening to the Monroe, the facts and basis for it, it's clear you have the power. You were elected by all of us, and you have great responsibilities and great authority. But it does seem to me that in this case, process may be important. And listening to the comments of the people who have spoken here, there's legitimate concern about some of the issues. I've been president of several not-for-profits during my long life. And one of the things I always felt I had to do was consensus, even when I felt very strongly about a policy or a program, and to get people behind me. One of the reasons is because if you actually make all the decisions yourself and perhaps have groups of boards that have the expertise, if it goes wrong, it's on you. And I think this is such an important project that no one wants anything to go wrong. I don't know of anything wrong. I can't comment at all on the size or the building materials. I don't have that expertise. But it seems to me that whatever delay might be, you're really going at your peril if you don't let these expert boards weigh in. And they can hopefully do it on an expedited basis so that you can get their input. But the thing is, if things go wrong, and in my experience, things can go wrong, things you never can think about or anticipate, but you will own it and you will be responsible, especially if you have not looked at the people who have the expertise that you have appointed or you and the prior boards have appointed. And so I just think that to avoid process is a very bad precedent, particularly since this is, I understand, the largest capital project that the town has ever done. And I applaud it for senior citizens and for protecting them and helping them and that sort of thing. So I give you great kudos, but let's not mess it up. Let's get it done right. And I think you all have the judgment when you get the facts to make the right decisions. And that's all I'm asking you to do, is to make sure you get the input from other people who have expertise on this, and not mine, because I don't have the expertise, but to make sure that you get it right for all of us, and that it doesn't come back to bite you all if something that no one can anticipate comes up that we could have gotten the information for. But thank you, and I appreciate so much what you're doing in this regard.
Thank you, Louis. Jason, was there someone else on the call, on the phone?
Yes, there is. I can unmute now.
Thank you.
Hello, caller, ending 4602. You're on the air. Can you hear us?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Great. Hi. Good evening, board. This is Betsy Petrovsky. I'm calling in regarding the proposed new senior center. I seriously suggest having all three appointed boards, the ZBA, Planning, and ARB, to review and opine on the architectural plans, size of the complex, the cost, clearing, etc., that come under their board's purview. I felt from the start that these boards should have had the opportunities during the process to review periodically the plans during their development, not now after the fact. There are two outstanding letters to the editor in today's East Hampton Town Star by Francesca Rhiannon and Brad Brooks that cover the obvious issues that we're all discussing here tonight regarding size, cost, clearing, and most importantly to all of us, the environmental concerns, as well as the possible potential for the affordable housing opportunities also on the 7 acres. So I would suggest highly that you take all of our suggestions to heart and rethink this project, and please have the boards work on it with you. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Betsy. Is there anyone else in the room? Esperanza?
Thank you. Good evening. Greetings in this new year. In my limited knowledge of, and it was funny to me to read this Monroe Doctrine in the documents that were on provided by the town, because to me the Monroe Doctrine was something I learned about in middle school. So the Monroe analysis, in my limited knowledge of that and the factors to be considered for tonight's public hearing, but their firsthand understanding of the essential role of the agencies that uphold the zoning code, that what they play, is my belief that it is...
Can you just, for your record, put your name on the record, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Esperanza Leon. Forgive me. I meant. Thank you. It is my belief that it is in the public's best interest, and this is what I keep hearing from most of the people that have spoken this evening, for the town not to exempt itself from the zoning regulations in the development of the new senior center. In my quick assessment of the factors to be considered, numbers 4, 7, and 8 are significant and need to be weighed, particularly number 4, which, as many have discussed this evening, I see as appropriately giving powers to the zoning, planning, and architectural review boards so these agencies can properly review, deliberate, and provide informed decisions that will benefit the project and therefore the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room?
Check the phones.
Anybody else on the phone, Jason?
There is no one else on the phone who has not already talked.
Okay, thank you.
I make a motion to close the hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Carol, if you could read this second notice?
Carol, before you do that, I'd like to make a motion to combine hearing number 2 and hearing number 3.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Please take notice the town board hereby directs the public hearing shall be held on January 4th at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard at East Hampton Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, to hear any and all persons either for or against a local law entitled, a local law providing for the amendment of Chapter 240, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 240-58, Schedule 8, stop intersections of the East Hampton Town Code to install stop signs on West Drive at the intersection of Morris Park Lane, East Hampton. Please take notice that the town board hereby directs that a public hearing shall be held on January 4th at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard at East Hampton Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, New York, to hear any and all persons either for or against a local law entitled, a local law providing for the amendment of Chapter 240, Vehicles and Traffic, to amend Section 240-60, Schedule 10, Commercial Vehicles over certain weights, lengths, and/or passenger capacities excluded, to prohibit commercial vehicles in excess of 8,000 pounds from Morris Park Lane between 3 Mile Harbor Road and West Drive, and to exclude commercial vehicles in excess of 8,000 pounds from West Drive between Springs Fireplace Road and its terminus.
Thank you, Carol. Elsie? You want to come up and address the board, please?
Do you know who's calling? Or I'll state it.
Hi, I'm
Welcome.
Elsie Nelson. Just one question. How come there's no public record of Morris Park was open, and how come their information has not been given, and when we were asking for the info?
So Elsie, this is we take public comment. We
Okay.
could certainly meet later, or you could reach out to my office and we could talk. Some of this came up at East Hampton CAC meetings, but
Okay.
right now this is a public hearing on the actual proposals. So if you could address those, if you have comments on that, on the weight limits or the stop signs on West Drive. That's
Okay.
what we're here to discuss tonight.
Okay, thank you.
you. Is there anyone else here in the room that would like to talk about make comment? Great.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sheila Hayes, and I'm under the impression that we're going to put a stop sign on West Drive and one on Morris Park Lane, correct?
No, so it's on West Drive, it's on where Morris Park Lane intersects. So if you're going, I guess it's, where would we have it? If you're heading north on West Drive, or if you're heading south on West Drive, at the intersection of Morris Park Lane, there will be stop signs.
Okay.
And then for the entire area, Morris Park Lane and West Drive, there'll be no vehicles over 8,000 pounds.
Okay. Now, my main concern, the stop signs might help, but it's the amount of traffic that's coming through. The speed of the traffic and the amount of the traffic. That's what's dangerous to the people that's living in the neighborhood. So at one point in time, I know we've discussed this before, Morris Park was a dead end. And like Elsie said, we want to know, when was it opened? So can we put that on the calendar to find out when Morris Park was open? Because the signs may help, but when that housing project opens up, we're going to have even more traffic coming through Morris Park to get to Springs Road, each and every day. Right now, we have buses that's speeding through. We have landscapers, which with our trailers, that's speeding through. So it's the amount of traffic and the speed. The stop signs, they may help, but it's still going to get worse over a period of time. So that's my comment. Hopefully, maybe we could sit down and have a conversation about when it was open, was there permits? Because when I was a child, Morris Park was a dead end. And so that's what we want to know as residents of Morris Park. When was it open? Who gave the permits and things like that? Because eventually, maybe we can have it closed again with the gate. That would stop all the traffic and the speeding through. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on
This gentleman.
How you doing? Happy New Year's to all.
Happy New Year?
Thank you.
Yes, I'm in support of.
You could
the
just
stu-
say your name for the record. for the-
Alan Gregg.
for the
My name is
clerk.
Alan Gregg.
Thanks, Alan.
Okay, I'm in support of the stop signs, but as the young lady was just commenting on, was the speeding. There's tons of speeding. I think we do need the stop signs, but we also need like speed bumps. Something to slow it down. Like in Sagaponack, there's speed bumps everywhere. You go through Sagaponack, you get going, you're coming to a halt to go over the speed bumps. I mean, everywhere in Sagaponack. I'm in construction, so I work all over, and I know where all the speed bumps are. We definitely need speed bumps in that area because the amount of traffic that comes through, it's enormous. I think it's busier than any other area. When you're cutting through from 3 Mile Harbor to Springs Road, they come through, and when they come through, they're rolling. They're not going slow. It's 15 miles an hour. It's posted because the road is very narrow. Every bit of 40, 50. I don't even know how they stop at the other end. You know what I'm saying? But we do need speed bumps along with the stop signs. Stop signs is not going to cut it. You actually need something to slow them down. I know the police are there every blue moon, might write out 1 or 2 tickets every 3-4 months maybe, but that doesn't stop the traffic. You know what I'm saying? That's what we really do need, speed bumps. Thank you.
Alan, if you could give your contact information to the town clerk. And Sheila, before you leave, if you could give your contact information, because I don't think the cell number I have for you is correct. And I'm LC too, and I'd be happy to follow up with you. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this public hearing? Jason, do we have anybody on the line for today? For this
No
one?
callers.
Okay.
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carol, if you could read the last public hearing notice for tonight, please.
Notice is hereby given that the Town Board of the Town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing at Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, on Thursday, January 4th at 6 p.m., or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard, to consider comments on all persons regarding the amendment to Chapter 95, bicycles, skates, and scurries of the Town Code of the Town of East Hampton, an abstract of which follows. A local law amending Chapter 95, bicycles, skates, and scurries to include definitions for bicycles with electric assist and electric scooters, resist the operation of the bicycle or skateboard on the east side of North Main Street in East Hampton between Collins Avenue and Floyd Street, and prohibit the use of bicycles with electric assist and electric scooters on any sidewalk within the jurisdictional confines of the town of East Hampton, exclusive of areas wholly within the incorporated village.
Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to comment on this public hearing? Jason, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers.
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. So now we are up to public comment. And do I have anyone signed up? Yes, Erin Sweeney.
Hi there, Erin Sweeney. I'm with the East Hampton Community Alliance. Super quick, just congratulations, Supervisor, on your new position, and Councilmember Flight. We haven't met yet, but congratulations. And I'm just simply here to say congratulations, Happy New Year. And the East Hampton Community Alliance looks forward to working with you in 2024 for the future of the airport. And that's it. Good luck to you.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Erin. Is there anyone else here that would like to address the board on any topic? No. We have anyone on the line, Jason?
No callers.
Okay. So if there's no one else in the room that would like to address the board, we'll go to resolutions. Tom, you want to start us off?
Resolution 2024-92 for the approval of claims of $2,076 and, apologies, sorry, $2,076,007.43 were audited by the town board, and the supervisor is hereby directed to pay the same. And be it resolved that the claims on utility warrant number 1A in the amount of $53,425.51 were audited by the town board, and the supervisor is hereby directed to pay the same.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2024-93 is to appoint additional members to the 2024 Amagansett Citizens Advisory Committee. Resolve that Chini Lacaro, Britton P.D. Bistrian, Susan Bratton, and Charlie Mitmore are hereby added as members to the Amagansett Advisory Committee for the 2024 calendar year. Additionally, we're going to amend this to include two more additional names, Amanda Miro and Dana Winter, who will also be appointed for the 2024 year.
Second as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's my privilege to offer Resolution 2024-94. This is to appoint Bruce Bates, Emergency Preparedness Coordinator for calendar year 2024, and also to appoint John Kent Halley, Assistant Emergency Preparedness Coordinator for calendar year 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. 2024-95 is a list appointment to Community Relations Specialist Ann Bell, where Civil Service Department of the Human Resources personnel gave an examination, and Bell is immediately reachable on this resultant list. Ann Bell is now appointed to Community Relations Specialist, an hourly rate of $34.88 hourly salary, $72,550.19.
Second.
And this would be
All right.
effective, it's okay, effective January 14th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2024-96 is to approve the CDL license training and authorize the employee attendance. This is not to cost not to exceed $27,000 for CDL training for the following employees listed below.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2024-97 is the reject bid EH23-050 for the windmill kitchen renovations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. 2024-98, this is notice RFP EH 2024-101. This is for professional management services for the Camp Hero wastewater system. The proposals are available on 1/11/24, and the proposals are due back on 1/25/24. Any questions, please contact our purchasing department at 631-324-4183.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2024-99, this is a notice of bidders for EH 24-002. This is for the Oak Grove Cemetery expansion tree removal bid. The bid is available on 1/11/24. The bid is due back on 1/25/24. Please contact our purchasing department, 631-324-4183, if you have further questions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I have Resolution 2024-100, and this is to modify, this is a modified change order 3, East Hampton LED lighting project. And whereas the town received a change order proposal from NIPA for installation of 15 additional post-top fixtures on County Road 77, which is Westlake Drive, whereas the town of East Hampton Buildings and Grounds staff will now install the light fixtures for a saving of $9,152.89. Resolved that the change proposal number 3 is hereby approved for $24,820 for the installation of the 15 additional light fixtures.
Second.
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 2024-101 is to amendment to Resolution 2021-707, and that resolution is hereby amended to authorize the additional work being performed in 2023. Or should that be 2024? 2023, related to the Wayne Scott Hamlet study, whereas the agreement with Lisa LaCory and Fine Arts and Sciences, Dotson and Flink Flinker, Inc., and L.K. McLean Associates is hereby extended to continue the additional work in reviewing the existing zoning code by working with members of the Town Board, Planning Department, and Town Attorney's Office to develop revisions to the zoning code to implement the Hamlet studies, commencing with the Wait and Scott Hamlet study. Resolved, all work performed by subcontractors shall be paid by Dotson Flinker. Resolved, Fine Arts and Science with a max cap of $22,500. Resolved, LK McLean Associates with a max cap of $37,500. And resolved, Dotson and Flinker, Inc. with a max cap of $26,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 24102 is a budget modification, power purchase agreement. This is resolved that the town board directs the budget office to make the following budget modification to offset year-end solar costs, which are being paid from dedicated grant reserve funds. That's increasing the solar PV reserve line in the amount of $4,500 and increasing the solar PPA line in the amount of $4,500.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And lastly, I have Resolution 2024-103, and this is to reimburse a judge's robe, and this is East Hampton Town Justice David Filer, who took the bench January 2nd and purchased a robe to wear. Resolved that David Filer shall be reimbursed $649 from the appropriate budget account.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I have Resolution 2024-104 is to appoint part-time Assistant Town Attorney John Jilnicki at the hourly rate of $76, retroactive to January 1st through June 30th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
105 is a Lexipol agreement for 2024. It's to provide updated law enforcement procedures, law enforcement supplemental manuals, law enforcement policy manual and daily training bulletins, and law enforcement accreditation workbench premium at a cost of $19,028.86.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 106 is a license extension for Elknor Hawkeye LLC at the East Hampton Airport. This is to permit the utilization of a staging area at the East Hampton Airport for equipment and material for PSE&G's hurricane and disaster relief for a one-year term commencing retroactively on January 1st, 2024, and terminating on December 31st, 2024, at the rent of $1 per square foot per month for a total sum of $4,166 per month. This is subject to a permissive referendum, and I just need to amend the date in the paragraph. It should be January 18th, 2024 in two places.
Second, as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 107 is a budget modification for workers' compensation. We're going to increase the revenue budget line, safety inspection fees in the amount of $112,000, and we're going to increase the expenditure budget line, workers' compensation in the same amount.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have Resolution 2024-108. This is a notice to bidders for EH 24-001. This is the windmill kitchen renovations rebid. The bid is available on January 4th, 2024. The bid is due back January 25th, 2024. Please contact the purchasing department at 631-324-4183 for further information.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 109 is to approve the vendor travel reimbursement policy.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 2024-110 is the reclassifying the proposed Town of East Hampton Senior Center as a Type 1 action and coordinating review among involved agencies.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any other matters to come before the board?
I do not.
I make a motion to go into executive session for the matter of contracts
Second.
What?
and advice of counsel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight to our first evening meeting in many years.
Feels like the zoning board, John.